has the duty to report suspected child abuse? I'm Jill Horner. This is Comcast Newsmakers. With me is Pennsylvania State Representative Todd Stephens. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You have a background as a district attorney. You've prosecuted cases related to child abuse and neglect. Let's talk a little bit about the Child Protection Task Force. This was put in place in the wake of the Jerry Sandusky case. Talk to us a little bit about the purpose of the task force, and then we'll get into some of the findings.
Sure. Well, right after the Penn State information with Jerry Sandusky broke, a few of us in the legislature immediately started introducing bills to address different problems that the Jerry Sandusky investigation revealed. Sort of the broader wisdom in Harrisburg came forward and said, look, let's put together a task force to really do a comprehensive review and suggest a potential overhaul for our child protection system in Pennsylvania. And so that task force went to work, and they released their findings in November of this past year. So now a number of us are moving forward with some of their recommendations, among them the mandatory reporter piece that I'm working on.
And let's focus on that, because there were a wide variety of recommendations put forward from this task force, but one of them, as you mentioned, relates to mandatory reporters. And what this does is it clarifies and expands those who are mandatory reporters. Why do you feel that's important, and who would be included within this category?
Well, you know, it's been a challenge, frankly, because as we saw in the Penn State situation, you had a coach walk in on a child being abused, and that coach alerted Joe Paterno. And then Joe Paterno, alerted a supervisor, but that supervisor, who's going to trial on this issue, never carried it further up the chain, and nobody ever notified Childline, which is the information line in Pennsylvania that you would call if you suspect child abuse. So we want to clarify this. Frankly, we want to make it more clear. And in the end, look, I just want to encourage anyone who suspects child abuse to either call your local police department or call Childline. I mean, there's no prohibition. Anyone can call if they suspect child abuse. We do separate, though, in the law, folks that have specific training and a background regarding children, and who have really daily operations and interactions with children. So it's teachers, it's physicians, folks who come in regular contact with children throughout their course of employment. They are required to report child abuse. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the guesswork out about whether you notify your supervisor or whether you notify somebody else. You are required to notify Childline first and foremost, because that's what gets the ball rolling on the investigation. In addition, you're going to have to notify your supervisor so that, if there's any changes that need to be made internally in the institution in which you work, they can start being made. But first and foremost, everyone's going to have to notify Childline, and we're going to try to streamline this just to make it more clear so that everybody knows who has to report and to whom. So
there's a clarification that's included in this legislation, but there's also an expansion in terms of who actually is a mandatory reporter.
Absolutely. The current law kind of goes through and identifies specific individuals, and what we're proposing is going to do that, but it's going to expand on it, and it's going to include, phrases like independent contractors of those individuals or employees of those individuals. So, there might be a head football coach, and there might be a half a dozen assistant football coaches. Well, you know what? We want to make sure that it's abundantly clear that all those assistants, even though they might not be, employees, they might even be volunteers, but in the end, if they suspect child abuse, they've got to report it directly to Childline and get that investigation moving.
And we just have a short time left, but we've been talking about this one piece of legislation, but there are other pieces of legislation, including redefining child abuse itself.
Yeah, it's a very broad-based package of bills. It's going to be a very comprehensive overhaul, and we're looking forward to protecting Pennsylvania's kids.
Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
We've been talking with Pennsylvania State Representative Todd Stephens. I'm Jill Horner.